Alright, hey guys, I am not very happy right now. I just filmed literally a 15 plus minute video on this topic, and for some reason my sound wasn't working even though I had like a literal microphone right by my mouth. So, that being said, we're going to try take two, but it's probably not going to be as good as number one, unfortunately. So they're very raw thoughts, so yeah, anyways, before this video gets super long, because that one was 15 minutes, so I don't want to make this one super long, I'm just gonna jump right into it. This week's topic was perspectives on sexism pre-T versus now. And first thing I want to say is that there's so much I feel like I could talk about with this topic, and there's so many different directions I feel like I could take this topic. I'm gonna just touch on a few of them. It's not gonna be a full video like explaining all my feelings on this topic, because that would just take forever and I'm not gonna upload like an hour-long video. But that being said, there's a few things I feel like I could touch on and kind of explain my perspective on, and hopefully that will do for now. So, to start off, I want to say, I guess, for me personally, I feel sometimes now at this point, I guess I'll start with now, at this point in my life, you know, post transition, having socially transitioned, having been on testosterone, gotten top surgery, my legal paperwork all says male. I sometimes feel in a bit of a limbo when it comes to, kind of in this like gray area when it comes to sexism, because for me, I do identify with the fact that my sex is female and my gender's male, so they just don't connect. And that being said, my sex has very little to do with my life, my like actual life. Like, my gender identity is really what controls how I feel in life, how I feel about myself, how I feel like my roles and my gender expression and all that is most comfortable for me. All that stuff, that's determined by my gender identity. Literally the only thing my sex has to do with my life is the parts I have or even had, and what I've had to do to kind of make my body and my life reflect my gender identity. So that being said, in my day-to-day life, people read me as male. They probably associate, they probably just read me as male and associate what's in my pants probably equaling out to how they read me. And we all know what that is in today's society, so they probably, I'm going to try to avoid like real technical terms here just to keep it, PG, and like not hopefully trigger anyone, but you probably think I have a P because they look at me and that's what they associate me with, most likely. That being said, sexism doesn't affect me in the same way as it would affect someone who outwardly identifies as female, and that's what sexism really is. It's oppression, discrimination, all that great fantastic stuff towards pretty much the female sex, because at least in the US, because that's what for some reason we've deemed inferior, I guess, for lack of a better word. And yeah, we'll just go with that. So for me, especially before I like transitioned, socially, medically, physically, whatever, before I even realized I was transgender, sexism definitely affected me in different ways than it does now, because sexism was something someone could look at me and know what my sex was. And now you can't look at me and just know automatically what my sex is. In fact, people probably assume it's what it is not. And that really has changed the way I face sexism personally. It's also put me on the other end of sexism, where I can perpetrate sexism. And I try not to do that, obviously. But I guess let me just use some examples from my life. When I was in elementary school, like either second, third, or fourth grade, I don't remember exactly which, a male teacher of mine had to move some things, and me and my best friend, two girls, and please know when I refer to myself as a girl, it's not because I ever saw myself as a girl or ever think that that's what I was. I mean, I thought that's what I was at one point, and that's how people read me, so that's what I'm referring to just for simplicity purposes. But I don't look back and think I ever was a girl. I think I just didn't understand or know better, and all that. Different story for a different time. But basically, so me and my best friend, two girls, we volunteered, and he wouldn't let us help because he said that the boys should probably help so that I guess we wouldn't hurt ourselves or whatever. It was crazy. I think it's all ridiculous, especially when you're like putting that on elementary school kids, because before like the hormones kick in, before puberty, there's really not that much difference between boys and girls. I I would get boy scores on everything from like the mile, running the mile, to doing pull-ups. So as far as strength wise or stamina wise or whatever, I was very equal to the boys, and even exceeded some of the boys in that area. So it really hurt me that he wouldn't let us help because of whatever reason. And that's really the earliest moment of like sexism I remember facing in my life, and I think it might have even affected me more than I realized at the time, because I did see myself as equal with the boys, besides the fact of I knew what I had in my pants, and I knew what society associated with that with. I associated it with that too, because that's what I was taught from a very young age. And so other than that, I saw myself very equal with the boys. I loved playing football at recess. I loved digging up rocks in the dirt, and it's just, all the stereotypical boy stuff, which doesn't even determine if you're a boy or a girl, but I had all the boy, what you would associate with a boy. And I associated myself more strongly with the boys than the girls. And, but I always had that knowledge of how society sees things, because that's what I was taught as well. And that's how I saw things until I was able to be exposed to more as I got older. So anyways, that being said, that's my earliest memory of really facing some kind of different treatment because of my sex. And as I said, like, as I've transitioned and stuff, it doesn't affect me in the same way, because people can't look at me and determine that that is my sex. Now, there are situations where it's come out that my sex is different than my gender, and that's mostly in like medical situations or legal situations or whatever. And I have been treated differently in those situations after the people found out, whoever it was, found out that my sex was female. And, I might talk more about that someday, because one of them happened kind of recently. And it's just, I think it's crazy okay, so, I don't know, I'm jumping ahead here. I think it's just ridiculous, though. Like, I think, if anything, the most, that what my experience as a transgender man has taught me most is that the whole idea of sexism is just dumb. The fact that people will treat someone differently, whether it has to do with promotions or safety or strength or whatever, based on just because or think they have either a P or a V, is just ridiculous when you really get down to it. I mean, why is it so hard to just treat people based on who they are as a person and what their actual capabilities are as a person, and what their actual, just their actual actions, words, whatever, instead of whether you think they have a P or a V down below, or whether you think they have, X chromosomes or XY chromosomes, whatever it is. You just kind of, I at least have just kind of realized how ridiculous and dumb it all is. So, that being said, another kind of thing post-transition, as far as sexism goes, that I've noticed is sometimes these days when I'm walking and I find myself, walking behind someone who outwardly identifies as female or someone who I read as female, there's been times where if we're like the only ones in the area or it's late at night, they've actually, the person who walking in front of me, the more feminine person walking in front of me, has kind of perceived me as a threat. There's been times when they've moved over, and I remember one time distinctively, like, it was broad daylight, and I was walking down the sidewalk. There was a woman in front of me. She actually moved over, and when she moved over, it was onto this little path that cut through, and it was actually the way I needed to go. But instead of still cutting through the way I was going to go, I just kept walking straight and went the long way because I didn't want to come off as more of a threat to her. Like, I could tell she already was seeing me as a possible threat and just wanted to kind of let me go ahead of her just to make sure so that she felt safer. And I just kind of went along with it. And I think it's so sad that we live in a world today where that's an actual concern for people. And it did cross my mind, like, what if she knew I was trans? What if she knew I would that made a difference if she knew that my sex is female? And but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But that did cross my mind, and it's just, again, I think it's so, the whole concept that sexism even exists is just so dumb to me and crazy, but and sad. Like, I don't know what much more to say about it. I just kind of want to throw in some examples of my own experiences in there, but all in all, yeah, I know I kind of just rambled on and rambled a bit and kind of jumped from thing to thing in here, but yeah, this kind of been some of my experiences with sexism before and after transitioning. And like I said, I think the biggest thing this whole trans experience has taught me is that the fact that sexism even exists is just dumb. But it does, and it sucks that it does, and it really affects people, and it has real effects on the lives of people. Now, we have made strides in sexism as throughout history and throughout current day, and I'm hoping that we continue that trend, but we still have a ways to go. And yeah, I don't know. It's all so, I hate that it's a thing. I don't see why it has to be a thing, or why, yeah. I mean, I know how it started and how it came to be a thing, but it's just, I think it's so dumb, the fact that it is a thing. And yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have much better to say, but that's kind of my experience and my perspective as a trans man and as transitioning, and someone who did transition is and has kind of been on both sides of that. There are, for me personally, it's a thing that I was able to kind of get on the other side of, just because my gender identity doesn't match my sex, and I was able to I wanted to and was able to transition and have my gender identity be what's reflected mainly on the outside. And because of that, I don't face sexism in the same way, even though my sex is female. People just don't see that, and that again goes, there's even more sexes than just male and female, than just those parts, those chromosomes. There's so much variation in that we don't even account for in human biology and all that stuff. And it just again goes to reinforce my statement of basing things on whether or not you perceive someone has a P or V is really what sexism comes down to at its very core, and it's dumb. And I'm sorry I don't have more to say about that, but that's my perspective. That's where it comes from. Those are some of my experiences. And like I said at the beginning of this video, I feel like I could say so much more about this, but I don't want to start going off on a tangent, so I'm going to end it with that. But you know, I might talk more about this either on this channel or on my personal channel, because it is a big topic. It's a loaded topic, and sexism in itself is dumb that it exists. And I guess that's my final statement on that. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. As always, stay strong, stay safe, stay you. I love you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.